So guys, in today's video, we're actually going to be overclocking our two cards, and we're going to go through the whole process, and we're going to be overclocking for Alephium. So we're just going to start off with the 1080 Ti and the 1050 Ti. I'm going to show you the whole process that we use for overclocking for all the coins that we would be mining. We're going to show you the before right now, and then the after, obviously at the end of the video. As you can see right here on the miner, we're getting a hash rate of around 1628 mega hash. We're getting an efficiency overall of 6.58, and the pool HR is just catching up, so this has just been started. However, we're looking at temperatures of around 55 degrees across both, and the power is looking at 250 watts from the 1080 Ti. The 1050 Ti currently doesn't display power just because there's something wrong with the riser. However, we do know that this takes around 60 watts to 65 watts. So we can calculate that at the wall. However, those are just the figures. We're going to screenshot this and we're going to compare it obviously at the end of the video. So now let's get into the whole process of how we would overclock for Alephium and how to actually set overclocks within the miner file. So guys, now we're back onto the computer and we're going to start this overclocking process. So normally people, if they're just starting off mining, this is the whole process. They probably use a external overclocker like MSI Afterburner or EVGA. These can work, however, you don't have as much control on these overclocking softwares. So if you want to get the best overclocks in terms of efficiency and hash rate, those two ratios, then you want to actually overclock within the miner. So we're going to go through the whole process of doing that and how to actually find out what the best overclocks are. So first step that you want to do is open up your miner file. So we have BzMiner right here, that's what we were just mining on. And as we saw, we have a screenshot here of the actual hash rates that we can look at and look back to. So we were getting around 55 degrees overall, 240 in power, 60 on the 1050 Ti, around 1623 mega hash. However, the efficiency was very, very low. So we're going to try and up that so we get more efficient, and plus we keep the actual hash rate. So if we exit out of that, we're going to open up our batch file. So this is just the standard batch file. We edit it. And here we have the command line. So what we're going to do is actually going to enter the overclocks into the command line. So first step is obviously finding out what overclocks to use. So hashrate NO has very good overclocks. However, it doesn't necessarily display the best overclocks for your cards because there is some variation in cards and you want to kind of cater it towards if your card is like a blower style fan or just normal external fans, or maybe if you're mining in liquid mining. So there are different variations. Obviously with liquid mining, you can overclock a little bit more than you would be on a fan style card. So normally if we're overclocking, we look for our card on hashrate NO. So if we scroll up here, let's find the 1080 Ti. As you can see, the gigahash that it's displaying is 0.88. Now on the screenshot, we actually got a megahash of 1.344 in terms of gigahash. So we just took this number and times it by 100 to give us the actual gigahash. So it's 1.344 gigahash compared to what they say on hashrate NO, which is 0.88 gigahash. Remember, this is with these overclocks. So the first thing that we'd want to do, obviously, is copy the BzMiner overclocks right here. So normally they won't necessarily have it for your miner. They could update it in the future. I know that some of them only have it for LOL miner and some of them only have it for Regal miner. So luckily we have BzMiner already set up for Alephium. So these are the overclocks which they would import into the batch file. So we can actually click this. So that's the copy button. We go over to our batch file and we can literally just paste it in here. Now there are some things that they don't include, which is like the fan and stuff like that. And they also don't show you how to edit it for 2 GPUs. So the main commands that we'd be looking to use if we're looking for fan speed would be on the BzMiner GitHub. And once we're on the GitHub, all you want to do is scroll down to the bottom and it'll give us the command line options. So this is where all of these command lines that we saw previously that we just copied came from. So it's on the CLI drop down by here. And I believe it's quite a bit down. These are all for like different types of, add-in displaying cards and stuff like that. So here we have the actual overclocking. So OC power limit, OC core clock offset, OC memory clock offset, OC core volt offset. So this would be for AMD cards. So we are looking for obviously OC fan speed. So we want to be adding that in as well, just so we can determine the fan speed that we get. So we're going to add that one in right there. So because we have 2 cards on the rig, we need to set 2 numbers. It's going to be however many cards you have on the rig. So if you just leave it at 1 number, it will set that for all the cards. So say you have 30 60s on a whole rig, you could effectively put in 1 number for each of these. So 1 number here, 1 number here, and it would overclock to all of the cards. However, because we're using different cards like the 1080 Ti and the 1050 Ti, we need to actually set them separately. So for the core clock offset, it says 90 here. I like to have it at around 110 just because it's a little bit higher. So you want to kind of mess around with these. If you get 90, go up to 100, click enter, and then see what hash rate you have running after an hour. And then if you can push it a bit further, go up to 110 and keep going past it. Same works for all these other cards. So for example, if we clicked on, let's just say the 4070. As you can see there, the core clock offset is 300. So we might start at 300 and then take it up to 310 and then take it up to 320, whilst also keeping all these the same, and see how high we can push it and what efficiencies we get. So as I said, for the 1080 Ti, I like 110 as the core clock offset. Now if we want to get the overclocks for the 1050 Ti, we just scroll down again and we click on the 1050 Ti. So it doesn't actually display a core clock offset for the 1050 Ti. Now I would like to put it at around 50 just because it is an offset, and then it obviously has a core clock here at 1480. So we can set that core clock here. Now this is going to lock the clock to 1840. Remember, the first GPU is the 1080 Ti and the second is the 1050 Ti. Then for OC lock memory, we want to keep it at 810 because the Alephium algorithm isn't very memory intensive, so we don't actually need to use the memory, so we just lock it very low so that we're not using any memory, and that's going to actually use less power if we don't have any go into the memory. So we're going to focus on the core and not on the memory. And then if we scroll over to the power limit, normally I wouldn't put it up there too much. Alephium is a very, very efficient algorithm, so I wouldn't have it at 200, I'd have it probably at 100. I know that there's different ways that you guys could do this. However, the only way to kind of test it out is to just test your power limit. So normally if you have a really efficient card, and obviously the efficiencies are listed here. So if you've got a more efficient card, you can lower the actual wattage more than what they say on the actual overclocks. So for example, they say that the overclocks here is 98 watts, so maybe you put the power limit at around 105 just so your cards can have a little bit of lee room to actually mine within the coin. If we bring it back to the 1080 Ti, we click here, it says here that the power reported is 90 watts, so if we stick it at 100, that gives it a bit of room. For the 1050 Ti, we'll do the same thing, we'll go back, click in here, it says reported watts 52, so maybe we put this at around 55, just to make sure. We don't necessarily have to use their power limit overclocks. For the 1050 Ti, it does say 52, but for the 1080 Ti, it did say 200. So that's, I guess they're accounting for if your cards accidentally overclock through a different software, and then the power limit is not fixed. And then for the fan speed, it's really up to you to choose the fan speed, because normally it's whatever temperature you want your cards to run at. I normally run it at around 65, and then I'll run the 1050 at around 70, just because the 1080 Ti is a little bit more efficient and it's going to produce less heat. The 1050 Ti doesn't necessarily have that heat dissipation, so we put the fan speed up a little bit more just to cool it down. So once we've done that, we can click exit and save. And now we've actually input our overclocks. So for BzMiner, you do want to enable one thing before you can start overclocking in this software. And that is to actually enable the application file to run the overclocks. All you have to do for that is find your miner file. Today we're using BzMiner. The same will be for LolMiner or any other miners. You right click, then you click on properties, you click on compatibility, and you want to make sure that this run program as an administrator is ticked. Once you tick it, you click apply and then click OK. That's actually going to allow you to run the miner with overclocks on. If you do not tick that, it's just going to start up the miner with no overclocks. So running it as an administrator allows the overclocks to be applied onto your cards. Now the reason that it's better than using an external one is because you don't actually have to have the processing power. I know it's a little bit from this external overclocker, so you don't actually need to use that. Plus you can actually lock the core clock and it's actually going to stay at that core clock. These don't tend to be that good at overclocking. If you're just getting into GPU mining, maybe you play around with these for a while before you dip your feet into overclocking in the mining software. However, once that is saved, we can actually double click it and start mining. I'll show you some footage of what we got here, and then we'll compare these two values to what we saw before the overclocking and after the overclocking. So guys, as you can see right here, we initiated the overclocks. This is what it's going to look like when you actually apply overclocks with the mining software. We have the fan speed at 65, the fan speed at 70 there, the power at 55 and the power at 100 watts. So as you can see right here, it's just starting up. The temperature is still at 50 degrees, but it's 26 for the 1050 Ti. The reported hash rate right now is 1266. That might change after a while. We'll have to see in around a minute's time. However, the miner is looking pretty stable. As you can see, the temperature is coming up on the 1050 Ti. The power is down to 92 watts, so way lower than what we had earlier. And the efficiency, as you can see there, is 13.71 megahash. So there's a big difference between the two. Now let's go and compare them. So guys, as you can see here, we have the two images. If we just click here, this is the first one, and we're getting the efficiency of 6.5 and a hash rate of 1622 megahash. And remember, the power was around 240 watts with a 55 degree temperature. So if we click back to here, this is the updated version that we just saw. You can see that we're getting an efficiency of basically double the 6.5 here. It's gone up to 13.5 overall. The hash rate has been taken down a little bit, so we're down at 1267 as opposed to 1622. So the hash rate drops a little bit, which means we're not going to get as much shares on the network as we would. However, the power has also dropped as well as the temperatures. So the power has dropped from 240 watts or 250 watts overall down to 93 watts. So that's what you're seeing this efficiency go all the way up for. Now, as I said, the temperature also cooler. So this is one of the main things of overclocking, is to keep your cards more cool, which is going to extend the life of the cards. Plus, you're going to get way more efficiency out of them. So you can basically hash more efficiently than you would. So it's going to save you on money and then more profit margins. So this is one of the prime examples of why you would want to overclock. It's just a quick video just to show you how to do it within the miner file for Alephium. And if you guys want to leave a like and subscribe, or if you're having any problems, feel free to leave them in the comments. As you can see here, we've got way better results after overclocking as opposed to not overclocking. So make sure you like the video and subscribe for more content like this.